Hello and welcome to Colour Multimedia Enterprises. My name is Luke, also known as Tianery, and I am going to introduce you to a series of OpenFL tutorials, starting with creating an RPG. And the reason why I feel an RPG is a good way to start is because it will give me an opportunity to show you everything that OpenFL offers. So, without further ado, let's get started. Hello and welcome. And of course we're going to, as I mentioned in the introduction, develop an RPG tutorial. And in this particular subject I am going to be presenting you with, of course, the ability to create an OpenFL video game. So without further ado, I am going to get started. I am using Flash Develop, as you can see, and I'm going to be developing an RPG tutorial. So let's go ahead and just quickly do this, and I'm going to go ahead and change a few things as well. So let me just quickly go into the folder to do this one here, command prompt. Okay. So the reason I'm using command prompt is because the inbuilt debugger in Flash Develop just doesn't really work to my liking. So let us get started with OpenFL. So OpenFL, when you create a project, whether it's via the command line using haxelib run OpenFL create, right, like that, or alternatively, if you've set it up correctly, which I haven't, if you have, it's just OpenFL create. When you do that and you put in the project title, so it'll be something like OpenFL create project, and then you put in your title in a string, for example. It could be tutorial, something like that. Then it will create a new folder. I'll even show you. So create project tutorial. Oh yeah, haxelib run, because I haven't set it up correctly. Haxelib run OpenFL project create project. So I'll just show you how you can create a project, and I'll just show you exactly how that works. And as you can see, that has now been added, but obviously I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be using this particular thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and I'm going to show you around the XML file. So this is more of a getting started tutorial and understanding exactly how OpenFL works. So let's start from the top and work our way down. So here we've got the meta title, or if you want me to start at the very top, that is, I mean, you don't need that, but you kind of do. It depends what is going to read this XML file. Obviously haxelib is going to be reading it, so it's probably a good idea that you just leave it there. The project, this is required, so when haxelib takes a look, or rather OpenFL, when OpenFL takes a look at this file, it's going to see project. If that does not exist, then it is going to say that it is an invalid XML file, so that needs to be there. And then we've got a few other options, which, by the way, most of them are optional, not all of them. So this output here is required. The metadata is mostly required. You don't actually need to have a company name there, as far as I am concerned. You do need a package, because that package is going to tell the OpenFL that that is the root namespace or package, whatever you want to call it. The title, again, that's actually I'm not 100% sure if it is required. That just basically that just basically says, okay, we're going to make the title of the game window RPG tutorial. So we could probably just put no name in it and it would work. So if I just do a quick test project.xml, Nico is a good platform to use for testing because it gives you debugging information for when you test it. And as you can see, there's no title at the top there, so meta title allows us to modify the title of the game window. So I'm just going to change it back, save it, test it again, and it will open up soon. There we go. As you can see, RPG tutorial at the top. So let's move on. We've got application, output, and again this is required. So the main, so this basically points to the main entry point of the program. That tells us which class to use to start with. So this is going to be main. If we don't have a function called public static function main like this, then it's going to instantiate it. If that does exist, then it's going to call this function instead. Okay, so that's something to think about. Normally it's just fine just to admit it. File, RPG tutorial, this allows you to, of course, define the name of the tutorial. So if we go into a bin here, RPG tutorial.exe, that is the output file name, which as you can see is there. Output path, that's the bin, that's the folder here. So make sure that exists, otherwise it will create the folder automatically for you. And then we've got some window options that we can have. So we can set the background color. As you saw previously, the background color was black. You can set the frame rate. In Nico, it's best to not set the frame rate, so it's probably better if you actually do that if Flash. In other platforms it's probably not a good idea to do that. What we can also do is put in an OR symbol there and put in HTML5 for example, but then that doesn't really matter because HTML5 doesn't require FPS, so probably want to leave that out. Window width, so we can set the width and height. I'm actually going to modify this slightly to 848 by 480, so it's a 16:9 ratio. And this, unless this, as I mentioned, this is a conditional, so if Flash, then set the background color to black and also set the FPS to 60. What I might do is cut those two out and put it under another window. So I'm just going to paste that in and do that instead. And we're going to make the FPS. We don't even need an FPS there, because if we have vsync as false, then that shouldn't be required. Let's just test that. I'm going into this a bit blind. I know mostly what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's still working. Obviously we can't know for sure because we haven't actually displayed anything just yet, but for the most part it is working. So as I mentioned, these are conditionals, so if we're on a mobile device, then we're not going to be setting width and height. It's actually going to be fixed depending on the mobile device that it's on. If it's a tablet, then it could be 1080p, for example. If it's on a phone, then, for example, iOS, I believe iPhones 3G, 2G and those generations are set to something stupid like 272p. Yes, I know Apple uses non-standard resolutions. And then we've also got window orientation, so we can set it to landscape or portrait. We can set that to, I believe, none, is it? On the OpenFL Learn, I can't remember. And then it'll just, and then the operating system will just automatically decide. Again, VSync, this option allows us to define whether or not the game is going to match the hertz of the screen. Anti-aliasing, now this I believe only works in 3D games. So if you're creating a 3D game with, let's say, 08-3D, we're not, but if we were to set this high, then the anti-aliasing will blur out the edges, or smooth out the edges rather, of 3D objects. I don't believe it works in 2D games though. I don't believe so. It might. I have tested it before and I don't believe it actually works, but I could be wrong. Something to think about. And then we've got haxelibs. Now this is going to be very important because we will be able to use these particular things to modify how many libraries we have in our project. Now when we come to building our project, what Haxe is going to do is it's going to take those libraries and it's going to build those libraries and it's going to put them into the project's output. So if you've got an exe file in here called RPG tutorial, all of the source code within those libraries is going to be put into that exe. Right. So currently we've got OpenFL and Actuate. Actuate is a small library that allows us to do some simple animations. We've got tweening and other things which I can't actually remember. So in order to get a haxelib, then we can install. We can also grab some info from it. So we can just type in haxelib info OpenFL. What's done, so we can take a look. So this is what's been happening over the past few years. So the current version is 3.1.3. This is licensed under the MIT license. Description: open Flash library for fast 2D development. There's no tags there. And if we scroll down to the latest, we've got the newest hotfix is continued improvements. So we had 3.1.1, which is what I believe I'm on. In order to upgrade, what I will do is just type in haxelib upgrade, which I will in fact do, just to take a look and also show you how to, of course, upgrade your libraries. It's nice to be able to, of course, have a program that will, what am I trying to say, to periodically check to see if there's different versions, which is nice indeed. And there is a way in which you can do that. I did have that conversation with my friend on Skype. Obviously I'm not going to check now just for privacy reasons, but I will check that out a bit later and show you how you can do that. And obviously, as you can see, there's new updates. The Lime is currently at 2.4.9. OpenFL, which relies on Lime, is actually at 3.1.3 at the recording of this video. So while that's all being updated, let's move on to assets. So this is going to be perhaps the most important part of the XML file, because this will allow you to manage your assets a bit better, and also maybe even provide assets on a platform by platform basis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few more things here. I'm going to put in a wildcard here, which is also known as an asterisk, dot png, and I'm going to OR it with, let's say, JPEG as well. And this is going to be universal. That pretty much works on all platforms. I'm going to add another one, which is going to be font. I'm going to rename that to font. Now the rename basically shortens the path while we're coding. So when we're referring to this, we're referring to this basically. That's what that basically says. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do dot ttf if, unless HTML5. So basically what we're doing is we're going to include TTF fonts unless we're using the HTML output, in which case we're going to include TTF as well as other types as well. So we're going to include EOT, WOF, WOF2, and SVG. Now all of these need to be included in HTML5, and the reason why is because different browsers support different formats. Internet Explorer supports TTF and also I believe EOT, which is a Microsoft format. Then we've got WOF and WOF2, which are supported in Opera, Firefox and Safari, I believe. SVG, again, I believe is also universal. Actually, I think WOF2 is only supported in Safari. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. I need to relook at that. But generally, that's just what it looks like. Now what I'm going to do is sound. And here what I'm going to do is rename it to SFX, and that's going to include .og and .wav. That needs to be enough. And that's unless we use Flash. I do believe you can use it in Flash. I do believe you can use WAVs in Flash, although I'm not 100% sure. Again, something I'll have to look into. And then we've also got audio as well. Now, audio is a bit different because .mp3 is patented, which means that we can only really use it in Flash. The reason why we can use it in Flash is because Adobe has an agreement with the MPEG excuse me, with the MPEG Foundation, which allows users to redistribute Flash objects with MP3 embedded files. So, and that's for free as well. So Adobe has that agreement with them. So let's hope that agreement doesn't go anytime soon for whatever reason. So that's why it is recommended that you use other formats for other platforms, so that you don't have to pay royalties for the use of MP3. I believe it's actually quite small. I think it's something like 5%, although I'm not 100% sure. Although I think that's for each MP3 file you have. So that could, in total, add up. I think I'll just get rid of that, because all platforms use it. So that's generally what you'll be looking at for assets, so basically what's happening is, in audio, for example, if we're going to be using Flash, then we want to include MP3. Otherwise, we want to be including the OGG files instead. And I'm just going to include one more because I'm going to be using that as well. And this is going to be info, which is going to contain all of our game information. So info include, this is going to contain txt. Do I want to be using XML or JSON? I prefer JSON. I might use txt for SCV type information, and SCV is basically, I can't even remember what it stands for. It's basically a list of numbers or strings separated by commas, and it's very easy to read. It's just a very easy way to read information, and I believe that should be done. Oh. Well, yeah. So that was basically a getting started tutorial, I suppose. Just understanding exactly how OpenFL works. If you haven't installed it yet, then you probably want to install it in addition to haxelib. I do apologise for not actually having mentioned that at the start of the video. So if you were to go to haxe.org, if you have not already done so, haxe.org allows you to download the haxelib toolkit, or rather Haxe toolkit. I don't know why I keep saying haxelib. It's actually Haxe toolkit. And if we then also go to OpenFL, which is actually here, this will allow you to download the file and other such things. So in order to install it, what you would need to do is haxelib install OpenFL. And you might want, normally when you download OpenFL, it is just haxelib install OpenFL. So once you've installed the Haxe cross-platform toolkit onto your computer, whether that's Linux, Windows or Mac, it doesn't actually matter what operating system you use, they all work on each. Then all you do is either in command line or command prompt or terminal, you just do haxelib install OpenFL. And there are a few other libraries that you might want to install as well. msignal is a good one that allows you to use C# like signaling or event handling basically. So it allows you to provide a strictly typed way of providing event handling and event listening to different things within your project. So that's all good. You've also got, as I mentioned, Actuate, which automatically installs with OpenFL, and you also have a few other things as well which are potentially less important but also nice nonetheless. So I will be using msignal in particular, which is extremely useful and will probably come in handy at some point during the development of this RPG tutorial. So I'm just going to include it here. And yeah, I think that's about it for this tutorial. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed understanding exactly how OpenFL works, and I will see you next time.